Hello, welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us again as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. You know, David's life changes dramatically after he slays Goliath. Saul's son, Jonathan, loves David, much to Saul's chagrin, which we'll soon find out. David and Jonathan's friendship is nothing short of legendary. Saul becomes intensely jealous of David as the people praise David's deeds even more than Saul's own. While under the influence of the evil spirit that troubles Saul, Saul tries to kill David, actually the first of many attempts over time. But of course, that attempt fails. David continues to excel at absolutely everything that he does. Saul had promised his daughter in marriage to the person who slew Goliath. So Saul makes arrangements for David to marry his oldest daughter, Merab, but then he gives her to another man at the last possible minute. He basically does this as an insult to David. But Saul has another daughter, Michal, who loves David. So Saul decides that he's going to basically trap David using Michal. David knew that he had no ability to pay the bride price. So Saul said that he would take 100 Philistine foreskins, basically thinking that David would be killed in the process of getting them. Well, David brought to Saul 200, which only made Saul more fearful of David. Soon Saul seeks to kill David again, but Jonathan talks him out of it. Then, a while later, Saul again tries to kill David with a spear while David is playing the lyre to soothe him. David escapes back to his home, where Michal then helps him to escape because Saul intends to have him killed in the morning. So David escapes during the night with her help. David flees to Ramah and the city of Ramah and Samuel. When men are sent there to get him, the Spirit of God comes over them and they prophesy. So Saul sends more messengers to bring David back. The same thing happens to them. Finally, Saul himself goes, and the same thing happens to Saul, only even more so. Prophesying kind of bookends Saul's kingship. It began with Saul prophesying at his anointing, and it ends with Saul stripped of both his kingship and his dignity, prophesying. You know, in the start, God changed Saul's heart. Now Saul has changed his own heart into one that's bent on murdering. No matter how hard he tries, Saul will not be able to change God's decree. He obviously is never successful in killing David. Well, David leaves Naioth, where all this is happening, and he seeks out Jonathan to try to understand why Saul is pursuing him so. Jonathan tries yet again to intervene on David's behalf with his father Saul, but it's soundly rejected by Saul. So Jonathan warns David, and David must now flee. Their parting is, well, it's very, very touching. And they will actually only meet briefly one more time. Other than that, really, David never gets to see Jonathan again, or Jonathan David. Well, as we've already learned, David was a musician and a songwriter. Many of the Psalms were written by David. David's years in the crucible of being totally dependent on God for his safety as Saul pursues him to kill him provides David with a lot of material to write about. We're going to read some of those Psalms as we work our way through the life of David. Today, we read Psalm 11, and actually we read Psalm 59 as well. Psalm 11 is a psalm where David affirms that his refuge is in God alone, that though those around him urge him to take refuge by fleeing, David will put his trust in God. David notes that God often tests us, and that God's mercy and faithfulness never fail us, that God's refuge is extended to us by his grace. Psalm 59 begins with a prayer for help in time of need. In this case, the need being that Saul has sent men to watch over David's house so that he could be killed in the morning. David continues to reflect on, the psalm then continues to reflect on the assurance David has that God will deliver him. Notice that David explicitly does not seek the death of those who pursue him. He only seeks deliverance from them. Notice also that David characterizes the Lord as well as laughing at those who try to subvert his will, God's will. This is where David will find his refuge in God, in the God who shows him steadfast love. May God be with you and continue to bless you in your readings. I pray that they continue to edify you and that you learn and you grow. I look forward to joining with you again tomorrow.